Hey everybody, this is Arthur Schopper, the Field Director for Mass Resistance, the international pro-family group that makes the difference. Now, I'm going to take a little more time for this video, because I cannot tell you how frustrated I am with what I see happening still ongoing in the conservative movement, the right-wing movement, the Christian movement, the nationalist movement, whatever you want to call it, that President Trump, that Republicans, that a lot of the conservatives, the commentariat, all claim to be a part of. We have seen this division emerge over Israel, for example, when there was widespread respect on both sides of the aisle for the Jewish state, a recognition that it's a stable democratic system, there is widespread freedom. With the IDF going after Hamas in Gaza, they're not engaging in a genocide. This is ridiculous propaganda of the lowest order. And you have a fringe element that wants to argue about Israel and say, well, Israel controls our politics, or, Israel is, genocidal state. All this negatives is spilling over to some people on the so-called right. Then you've got the arguments about free enterprise, and this is more serious, because you have presidential contenders, even though they haven't said it yet, like J.D. Vance, who have become very open about government intervention, government command and control of the economy. They've talked about more welfareism for working class populations. They've talked about more government investment and private enterprise. And even the Trump administration is dabbling with this, and that's not good. And so we hear all of these arguments. We've seen the Ben Shapiros of the world. We see the Joel Berrys, the Babylon Bee people. We've seen the Misfit Patriot. He's a great guy. I appreciate his work. We see the Glenn Becks of the world, the Steve Deaces. They're calling out the woke right. They're calling out the Tucker Carlsons. They're calling out the Candice Owens. All of this is good. But to me, there is a far more pernicious issue. Very much cultural Marxism, very much communistic, very much degrading, that has harmed it is harming the restorative movement, conservative movement, whatever you want to call it, movement. And it's this growing normalization of homosexuality. And why am I bringing up this topic again? Because I saw all over social media yesterday Guy Benson, the openly gay conservative, celebrating that he has a daughter, when the fact is that he's in a fake marriage with a man, and the fact is that's clearly not his kid. They didn't form that child through natural procreation, obviously. This was a trafficked child through surrogacy or adoption. I don't know the specifics yet. And there's not a word coming from the Ben Shapiros of the world, the Steve Deaces of the world, even the Mark Dices of the world, who are more like populist right, more dissident right. You don't see anybody calling this out. And I guess in a way I want to use this time and segment to kind of give a scenario. Like if I was at one of those college tours where Ben Shapiro comes and takes questions from the audience, I would be saying to Ben, I would start out my question with, hey Ben, we appreciate that you have the courage to call out Candice Owens. She's a liar, she's a degenerate, she's a grifter, she causes division because she's a fraud. We appreciate that you can call out Megyn Kelly, that she's an Islamist pandering for a certain audience. But how come you won't call out Dave Rubin, who is a man in a false marriage with another man, and they've trafficked a child from those children from their natural parents? How come you won't have an open argument with one of your colleagues, Andrew Klavan? This is on the Daily Wire. Andrew Klavan, his son abuses his body with another man. Spencer Klavan, he's in a false marriage, and this is like corruption, this is perversion. Andrew Klavan was interviewed by Matthew Fradd, who's a Catholic commentator, and who's now also contributing to the Daily Wire. Matthew Fradd has not been afraid to confront Andrew Klavan about this. But where's Ben Shapiro? Where is Steve Deace? Where is Michael Knowles? Where are the people who have been calling out the woke right, the horseshoe right? They're not calling out this problem. It's disgusting. It's abhorrent. It is painful. It grieves me when you see these creepy men advertising their children like commodities and saying, look at me, I'm playing family. It wasn't okay when Pete Buttigieg, creepy homosexual getting it on with his fake husband, and they were trafficking children from their natural parents. But you don't hear a word from conservatives when Dave Rubin's in on it, or Spencer Klavan is in on it, or any of the other stuff going on. And I go right back to Ben Shapiro. He gave a great speech at TPUSA in December. I'm glad that he called out the grifters, the liars, the frauds. There must be a commitment to telling the truth and not being afraid to do so. But we don't see that when it comes to this more contentious issue, which is the normalization of homosexuality in the conservative movement. There is nothing conservative about this. It is a legitimate criticism when you have young people going to these college forums and asking the pointed question, what have you conserved? We're not conserving anything if we don't get back to square one and say, it's not okay for you as a man to claim to be married to another man and then to traffic children from their natural parents so that you can play family, so that you can cosplay as a couple. And you know what? Ben Shapiro has confronted this issue in a general sense. He did a video where he was highlighting there was a kid mocking his two male guardians, for lack of a better term. He was mocking them and how they talked. And Ben Shapiro, he made a comment saying, first of all, kids shouldn't have social media in that way. And second of all, kids need a mom. It's not right to take that away. Okay, Ben, that's a good first stop. That's a good first step. But when are you going to start calling people out by name, like Dave Rubin and your own colleague, Andrew Klavan? When will you be that corrective? Because you declared that you're a friend of Megyn Kelly and you still criticized her openly, which was appropriate. I presume Andrew Klavan is a friend. When are you going to confront him openly on why do you go against biblical truth and natural law and make excuses for your son, claiming to be homosexual, married to a man, undermining the sovereignty of that institution? When's this going to happen, folks? And all of us need to start stepping up, because this to me is the more legitimate problem. This is the thing that we should be creating a conflict over. The normalization of homosexuality in the conservative movement. Not bellyaching about Israel, not complaining about tariff culture or tariff schedules. There's room to have these discussions. I'm not saying we can't, but I think the more contentious, divisive, and Marxist cause that we need to confront is this normalization of it's okay for two men to marry and to take kids from their natural parents and then call themselves a family and then still say, well, I'm conservative because I'm not woke. The fact is, this is wokeness too. This is wokeness as well, folks. It's still identity politics wrapped up in dishonesty being shoved in our faces, and we on the right are supposed to accept this. No, we have to have the courage to say this is wrong. And not just from a biblical perspective, but from a biological perspective, from a natural law perspective. This has to be the discussion, folks. And I really believe all the arguments about Israel, about economic freedom, it is distracting us from this larger anti-family Marxist agenda. And if you think that I'm misusing the term, you can look up Karl Marx. He wanted to destroy the family. And homosexual normalization is a big part of that. Henri de Saint-Simon, his precursor, wanted to destroy the family. The first major homosexual activist organization in the United States, the Mattachine Society, was a communist organization as well. The DSA, they're totally on board with normalizing LGBT everything. So it's all hand in hand. This is the most pernicious because it has been tolerated for too long. And I guess, again, the Ben Shapiros, the Glenn Becks, the Steve Daces, the Joel Berrys of the world, if you are truly willing to resist audience capture, there is no better proof for that than to be able to throw down the gauntlet and say, homosexuality is wrong, two men cannot marry, and start naming names like the Dave Rubins, the Andrew Clavens of the world who think that this is okay. The Tony Larens, the Megyn McCains, who think that, well, homosexuality is okay, there's a place for log cabin, this and that. No, it's time to tell the truth. It's time to have the courage to say, not on our watch, not on our movement, this is not okay, and name names while doing it.